Marvin Harrison Jr. is coming out of the gate strong during OTAs. It's a beautiful thing. What does it mean? Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You'll notice I'm only doing 3 shows this week. I'll be doing 3 shows for the month of June, as is technically our quote-unquote off-season. I believe I'll be back to 5 days a week starting in July. I'm backloading it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week to try something different. Let me know in the comments what you think. Would you rather see it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, something different? Because I'm here for you, and it's at Clancy's Corner _. I forget. Go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals, hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on. I'm taking a pause in our X Factor series. I will be doing the defensive veteran X Factors tomorrow and the rookie defensive X Factors on Friday. But I felt like it was time to do kind of where are we now with, voluntary turning into mandatory OTAs? What have we seen? What have the players said? And everything like that. So I'll discuss that all today. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. I've been working in sports radio since 2011 here in Phoenix. I've been hosting this beautiful podcast since 2017. And I'm not sure if I've been more excited for an off season to turn into a regular season as I am right now. The main reason, above everything that we saw last year, Kyler Murray healthy, things like that, is what Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to do. Okay, so now the Cardinals decided that they're going to draft a wide receiver, arguably the best player in the draft at 4 overall. Now it's time to see what he's all about. And while you're not going to see a whole lot, whether it be voluntary minicamp, OTAs, you'll see some 11 on 11 as we get closer to preseason and the regular season, obviously. But you start to see how these players do the small things. How the small things are done is how everything is done. And head coach Jonathan Gannon pretty much came out and said he's almost too detailed. Something he's going to have to fight him on. Marvin Harrison Jr. is too prepared. He's too ready. He's too inquisitive. And we've seen, clips, very minimal clips out of camp of Kyler hucking it to Marvin Harrison Jr. and others. And, the way Marvin Harrison Jr. moves on the field is just effortless. It's absolutely effortless. He's gliding. He's making the difficult look easy. And I'm not saying that OTAs are difficult. I'm just saying the transition for a wide receiver 1 out of college who people have said is going to be the first wide receiver off the board for 2 years now, coming into an Arizona Cardinals organization that hasn't won a whole bunch recently, and coming in and just showing everybody who he is. Quiet, humble, like his dad, detail-oriented, and ready to rock and be a part of an offense that could be an absolute missile in 2024 and beyond. He didn't come in lazy. He didn't come in, any sort of way like every day, this, that there's one thing that I say, the one thing that I say a lot of things, but one of the things that I say is all you don't want out of OTAs or the rookie year of rookies is, oh no, he's not ready. Oh no, what have we done? And when it's there, it's pretty blatant. I mean, Isaiah Simmons was one of them. He was playing out of position, but whatever it may be, it was like, oh no, he's not ready. And I think that all the little things done by Marvin Harrison Jr. ever since being drafted to now, so far so good. So far so good. And one thing is apparent that Jonathan Gannon is not just going to give out compliments. It's not something that's like, I got to be a good coach. We've got some issues, but it's going to be fine. Like, as long as there aren't step backwards, those are step forwards. It's another cliche that I use here on the Locked On Cardinals podcast, your team every day. The big picture for Marvin Harrison Jr. through OTAs, just for that entity alone, is to show and build rapport with Kyler Murray ingratiate himself to the team, which seems to be effortless for him, and to do the little things right. All you want for rookies to be able to do on game day starting week 1 is not think. Just go play the game they've played at such a high level since they were kids. And this is the first step of that. Sure, you have voluntary minicamp and stuff, which it's just the beginning, but this is starting like the 0 to 1 jump between voluntary and mandatory OTAs. It's like, okay, it's time now. I'm an NFL player. The draft is long forgotten, and now it's time to show. And now it's time to just prove to people that I'm worth the 4th overall pick. And so far, so good. The interesting part about having a wide receiver 1, who the Cardinals have drafted, is it's hard for me to process because Michael Floyd, they traded for Hollywood Brown, like Larry Fitzgerald 2003. It hasn't really been something that, we've experienced here for a long time. So while the expectations will be there around the national media and things like that, I've mentioned multiple times in the past 2 weeks that he's got no pressure on him. They've got a ready-made offense without him. We saw it last year. Doesn't matter who was playing quarterback and what receivers were healthy. It wasn't at the level it obviously could be with talent, so he's going to add immense value goes without saying. But this is a James Conner and Trey McBride offense. And then soon it will be a James Conner, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr. offense, and not knowing where the 1, 2, 3s will be, but that's going to be the group. So seeing him come in, act professionally, do the little things right, already get under the coach's nose, already get on his nerves because of how prepared and how detailed he is, that is a good problem to have. So everything that we've seen since Monty Osborne and Jonathan Gannon took over last offseason, everything is moving in the right direction. The players they drafted are moving in that direction. The players they drafted this year, that's what they draft, the character as much as the talent. They fit into this culture of this is the way it's going. This is the way that we think will work best, they say to the players. And we want you to be a part of this. So far, so good. Budda Baker spoke to the media yesterday. Had some interesting things, had an interesting thing to say, an interesting perspective on his future. We'll discuss it next. Locked on Cardinals, your team, every day. This episode of Locked on Cardinals is brought to you by the Game Time app. Game Time makes getting NBA Finals tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, view from your seat, and their lowest price guaranteed, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. I mean, listen, tomorrow night, Game 1. You know who's playing? Celtics, Mavericks. You want to go? Game Time. And you don't even have to, it doesn't even have to be for finals tickets. You can get last minute deals on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever it is. They have flash deals, zone deals. Like, they want to make it easier for you to go to the events that you want to go to. And they've got seat views, man, where you can see the view from the seat that you will experience before you buy the tickets, so you don't have to guess what your vantage point will be. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets. Lowest price. Guaranteed. Alex Clancy, Locked on Cardinals. Thanks for making Locked on Cardinals your first listen, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. Marvin Harrison Jr. So far, so good. I'm going to get t-shirts made that say, so far, so good. No red flags. You can say what you want about the fanatic stuff. I think it's much ado about nothing. I think that could be a bigger wave of just more informed, college turned pro athletes, especially with, a dad who played in the NFL for over a decade. I don't see that as a red flag by any stretch. Now, Budda Baker, okay, he's been not a point of contention in a bad way, like, oh, he's bad for the team. That's never been Budda Baker. Should the Cardinals be paying him? His contract is up after the season. I've gone on multiple of these episodes and said he needs to retire an Arizona Cardinal. Give him a 2-year deal, make it team-friendly, front-loaded so you can get out after 1 year. Same with James Conner. I would extend James Conner for a couple more years as well. They're the blood of the organization. So it's not just like, oh, you know what? He's not at 100% of what he was, so he doesn't have any value to the organization anymore. That's such a common thing that people think. It's lazy. It's lazy. So Budda Baker went up, spoke to the media. He's like, listen, I'm taking 2024 for 2024. It's a different mindset than where he was last year when Ian Rappaport reported that he wanted to trade, and then they ended up working something out around camp where, they made 2023 fully guaranteed. They gave him some elevators in his contract incentives for 2024 and give him a little extra boost for both years. And I think it was kind of a handshake deal to see. Now, the question is, what's Budda Baker's plan? Is his plan to play out of his mind this year, which he plays? He only has one speed, man. He only has one speed. Is this a betting on myself situation for Budda Baker for 2024? It's interesting. It's an interesting wrinkle because conventional wisdom would think, especially for, a guy who's 30, don't know how many more contracts he's going to get in the NFL, whether, more than 1 year deals. It's like, why wouldn't someone hold out this year to get that added, security and stay in Arizona Cardinal? There's two different ways to think about this. And my brain overworks sometimes. So it's just, there's a couple things that I came up with. One, he and Monty Osford have had a conversation. They were like, listen, let's table this. Let's go win some games. We'll talk at the end of the season. That's one, which I think is probably the case. And Monty Osford has built implicit trust immediately. I won't clap again. Immediately. The second side of this is he auditioning for maybe not to go elsewhere, but to drive the price up if he gets offered contracts elsewhere? Because listen, this is a tightrope without a safety net. And players bet on themselves all the time. And Budda Baker is an Arizona Cardinal. For those everydayers, you'll know this, and I think it's important to remind people. If this is your first listen to Locked On Cardinals, thank you. One of the things that I say a lot on this show is the Arizona Cardinals don't have very many Arizona Cardinals on their roster. It's always free agents, trades, whatever it is. Homegrown star talent is something that the Cardinals have been more devoid of than rich with over the last handful of years. Budda Baker has been one of them. James Conner, honorable mention, ingratiated into he's an Arizona Cardinal. He said earlier in the week he wants to retire an Arizona Cardinal. Just look at what players like Budda Baker have done for this team and don't make them the cautionary Calais Campbell tale. And that's not to say Budda Baker is going to be 100% of what he was 3 years ago. He doesn't have to be. My first segment tomorrow, which you'll want to check out, Budda Baker is the biggest X factor on defense for the veterans and for so many different reasons. First segment tomorrow. Stay tuned for that. But the way Budda Baker is approaching this, he didn't have to talk about it. He's like, listen, I don't know. We're ways away from that. And then, a month out, Budda Baker wants a new deal. We don't know. That could still happen. But the way he approached it, the way he said it, the smile on his face, he wants to be here. And people who want to be here, who deserve to be here, who have the ability to be the leader that he is, I can't help but think that Monty and he we're just talking in the background, like, listen, let's get everything situated. A lot of young moving pieces now. look at how good this defense is going to be with the future pacing wins and in 2024 than anything you've seen in the last 3 years. I've said the Cardinals' strength has been their defense through the entirety of Cliff Kingsbury's tenure, and I agree. And I double down on that. Quadruple, 10 times down on that. Because Vance Joseph ran his side much better than Cliff Kingsbury did, even though Vance Joseph wasn't great some of the time. Budda Baker was the anchor and is the anchor of the defensive side of the ball, and he had to do everything all the time. No corners, no pass rush, no interior defensive line. Off-ball linebackers didn't know what the hell they were doing. It was just him and Jalen Thompson filling holes. So Budda Baker to go up there and sit and be like, you know what? Let's talk about it later. I'm focused on 2024. He didn't have to say it that way. It's not just always being political. He said, they're pretty much, I'm inferring from my opinion, there are more important things right now to put in place. Imagine Budda Baker as the veteran playing over the top with Jalen Thompson of Max Melton, Elijah Jones, Kazir White, Darius Robinson, Zaven Collins, we'll see. Like, this defense has the potential to be special. And Budda Baker, what better situation to be than the team that drafted you, this completely different organization than the team that drafted you, a completely different version of. He just said, TBD. We'll see. Now, he could say, you know what, I want a new deal, which I still think the Cardinals should give him. They got $15 extra million from DJ Humphries not being on the roster anymore. You know, there's going to be dead cap between this year and next year. I think 6 this year, 9 next year, or vice versa. But they've got money. And Budda Baker at 70% over trusting Jalen Thompson and the rookie Rabbit to come in and just fill that? No shot. He's too important to this organization. It's not wasting money with somebody who's that important to this organization. It's not just what happens on the field. Imagine if he just played his position, didn't have to cover for the inferiority of myriad other positions along the defense over the last handful of years. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Greg Dortch is getting a full segment next. Locked On Cardinals, your team, yours every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by BetterHelp. Anywhere else, you look, anywhere else you go, there's always need to get things off your chest. Okay, big or small, certain things can really start to get to you. And it's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased in your life. So today, I want to say how I really feel about something, and you may even be thinking the same thing, and this is going to be sports related. Put more respect on Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson's names, or and James Conner's names. Jalen Thompson too. James Conner's names. These guys have been the heartbeat of their respective sides of the ball for the last several years. Just because both their contracts are up in 2024 doesn't mean that they don't deserve an extra couple years with this team. Play on the field, locker room, leadership, everything in between. They deserve it. They deserve it. And, therapy can be different for everyone aside from thoughts on sports. Most of us have bigger problems in our favorite sports team, and it's important to get things off your chest every once in a while. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. And this episode of Locked On Cardinals is also brought to you by Bird Gang Travel Club. My dear friend runs the Bird Gang Travel Club, and I'm so excited that they've been brought on as a sponsor. Tyler and I have become friends over the years, and he puts these packages together. Listen to this. Marv catching TDs from K1 in South Beach, You could be there. James Conner making house calls at Lambeau. You could be there. All-day Trey making big play after big play week 1 in Buffalo in front of the Bills Mafia. You could be there with Bird Gang Travel Club. Bird Gang Travel Club provides the best and only fan experience. You can travel for Cardinals road games. We're talking anywhere from 50 to 500 fans on a given trip. This season, they're hitting Buffalo week 1, Green Bay week 6, and Miami week 8. Packages include top-notch hotel stays for 3 or 4 nights, lower-level game tickets, currently row 5 or closer in Buffalo, parties each night with open bar and appetizers, unique fan tours of Lambeau Field and the Niagara Falls, souvenir trip patch, State 48 trip shirt, and more. Visit birdgang.com to see all the packages today. Sign up by June 23rd and receive a signed Paris Johnson Jr. mini helmet for anyone in your package. Use code LOCKEDON to receive a bonus signed mystery mini helmet or football from a current Cardinals player or alumni while supplies last. Check it out. Best in the business. Bird Gang Travel Club. Final segment, Locked on Cardinals. Alex Clancy here. Here's the thing. I get passionate about Budda Baker, and I think that it's rational. I'm passionate about James Conner. I think it's rational. I can't understand the comments. Not move off. They're old. Listen, what I implore for you to do is don't just look at somebody's age and be like, nope. Please. Just try it. Just try it. Greg Dortch was the buzz of Twitter for the last couple days. There was a chart put out by an employee at Underdog Fantasy. The x-axis was ADP, where a player was drafted, and the y-axis was proficiency against man coverage. Greg Dortch, higher than everybody else in proficiency, and all the way to the right at ADP at around 100. Greg Dortch is going to get his chance in 2024. And by chance, I mean chance with repercussions. Chance with upside, chance with getting pulled if he doesn't perform. And that's what you want. That's the opportunity you want. It comes with more targets. It comes with scheme packages surrounding. It comes with wide receiver 1s and 2s getting majority of man-to-man coverage or double coverage, with Greg Dortch being able to run every route in the route tree, irrespective of how tall he is. You can put him in the slot, can put him outside. He's got great hands. He knows, he's like Kyler Murray. He knows his size. He knows how to hit angles and curvatures to where he doesn't have to get hit and can extend runs after catches. What Greg Dortch is, who he is what you wanted not only Rondale Moore to be, but Andy Isabella. And I'm not going to talk crap about the pick. Doesn't matter. Andy Isabella was supposed to be what Greg Dortch has shown during his tenure and his abridged, opportunities. If Greg Dortch can expound upon what we've seen in flashes over the last couple of years, again, because he played behind Rondale Moore, played behind Hollywood Brown, played behind DeAndre Hopkins, he was always the fifth option. He was the camp and preseason darling. I have a feeling that Greg Dortch is not going to be a household name anymore. He's going to be drafted in fantasy football this year. And then on the field, he's the absolute terror that won't necessarily be schemed for. He won't necessarily be schemed for, but he can be an absolute game wrecker. Picture this. Marvin Harrison Jr. lined up by himself, left of Kyler Murray. Greg Dortch in the slot, left of Kyler Murray. Michael Wilson and Trey McBride lined up wide on the right of Kyler Murray. James Conner standing behind him or next to him if he were to be in shotgun. That is a nightmare for opposing defenses. You double cover Marvin Harrison Jr., Greg Dortch can run wild against a backer or a safety. How many clear routes there will be with Marvin Harrison Jr. as the decoy, and all Greg Dortch will have to do is run a 5 or 7 yard out, catch the ball, and turn it upfield. What Greg Dortch will be able to do is unlock this offense that we haven't seen. Like, 2015 was fun. I was watching Larry Fitzgerald clips with Carson Palmer. Like, oh, man, that was fun. Even with John Brown and Jerron Brown, J.J. Nelson, Britton Golden, one of my dear friends now. Greg Dortch can unlock a different dimension of this offense that's unquantifiable. Not to say they're going to be the best offense in the league. I'm not saying they're going to that they're going to win. They're going to go to the Super Bowl. That they're going to be the best. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is, all of the boxes are now checked. Wide receiver 1, he will be. Wide receiver 2, Michael Wilson proved that if he stays on the field, he has wide receiver 2 potential. Wild card in Greg Dortch in the slot, and you have a top 3 to top 5 tight end in Trey McBride. And you've got the wily veteran Zay Jones, who's probably going to be the wide receiver 2 on the depth chart come week 1. You got James Conner out of the backfield. You got Trey Benson out of the backfield. There was a clip from yesterday. I think it was Tyler Drake that took it from Arizona Sports. That was Trey Benson running down the sideline, catching a pass from Kyler Murray, a feathery pass from Kyler Murray. That offense is going to be scary. And Greg Dortch could absolutely be the straw that stirs it. And it's going to be. I think it's safe to say, in my 13 years now in sports radio and podcasting, the last, since 2021, just this podcast, I've never been more excited for an Arizona Cardinals season. Marvin Harrison Jr., Budda Baker, and Greg Dortch, all highlighted on the show, will be massively integral parts of that. I was Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.